You're listening to the Soldier Songs and Voices podcast. Real stories, real songs, and real conversations with bona fide heroes. I'm your host, Tony Rosario. Welcome. Come on in, get comfortable. Let's go for a ride. I am thrilled to have with me today my good dear friend and brother, Jay Burbank. Jay is an Army veteran, and Jay was right there with me in Grand Junction. Jay has been instrumental in my life and a dear friend, somebody I know that's always had my back. So without further ado, I want to let him tell you a little bit more about himself. So, Jay, I want to ask you firstly, where are you from?
Yeah, I grew up in, first off, it's great to be here with you, and I love that you're doing a podcast now. I think it's so cool. And I love you too, brother. A lot. I think about you all the time, and I just really, I love the energy you bring to this stuff. So, but yeah, I grew up in Rochester, New York. Pretty normal kind of suburban living growing up. My family wasn't really military people per se. I had I guess both my grandfathers were in. My one grandfather was in Korea. My other grandfather said that he cleaned more toilets than shotguns because he was always in trouble, I guess. But they didn't really talk about their military experience much. So I didn't feel like I grew up in a military family, really. And yeah, I kind of got to a point in my life where my brother, Michael, he was going down a rough road, dealing with a lot of addiction stuff, stuff that has kind of plagued my family. And Michael, he had a few options once he was really spiraling, and one of them was to join the military, and thinking, oh, maybe this will, give you some structure, clean you up, blah, blah, blah. And so I was looking at it while Michael was looking at it, and I thought, oh, well, I'm not doing much, I'm back home. I'd been to college for a couple of years, but was kind of treading water there, and was back in Rochester wanting something new, and so I thought, oh, maybe I'll join up and kind of lead by example, and maybe Michael will come along, but that didn't really work out to be the case, and I went in pretty naive and pretty blind, and when I got to MEPS, I did really well on my test, so I could have chosen any job, but I'll never forget the guy's name. His name was Sergeant Eisenhower, and he was like, well, what are your hobbies, son? What do you like to do, And like an idiot, I said I like to hike and camp. So, yeah, that put me in the infantry pretty quick. He pretty much laughed out of his chair. Thought it was hilarious.
You were a sitting
I was going to join the infantry to hike and camp, but, I was kind of the opinion, if I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to do it. And this was pre-9/11. So it wasn't exactly the scene that we have now. So that's kind of what got me there.
Yeah. What was your big welcome to the Army moment?
I was all the infantry. We go down to Fort Benning in Georgia, and we're standing there. Basic training is a big break you down to build you up type situation, and there's just kind of like this holding area that you go to, and it's kind of just cold and concrete, and everybody's getting their heads shaved, and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? And we're standing in line, and people were falling out of line, and they were hitting the concrete floor with blood, and it was like 2 or 3 people, I think. It was pretty crazy. That's one of the first kind of inkling to me that, wow, my humanity is really going to have to kind of change to be in this situation, because you see somebody down and bleeding and you want to run to them and help them and, get them out of the situation, but you can't. You're just starting your kind of career there, and you got the NCOs and the people in charge kind of take over there. And so that was kind of my first inkling that, oh wow, yeah, this is going to be different.
Yeah, that's a question I can't wait to hear the responses from so many people, because it really, and that doesn't surprise me coming from you, that your first, thought was around, hey, my humanity
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
What kind of music were you listening to back then?
Oh man. I was a big Deadhead. I listened to a lot of kind of like hippie jam band stuff and a lot of Seattle grunge, because it was 2000 that I went in, and that was hard too. Music was a real grounding force in my life. My dad was a drummer. He sang barbershop. My mom was a music teacher. So music was just everywhere around me, and I didn't know if that was special or not. It just really was a huge part of everything. And I was, one of those mixtape kids. I'd wait on the radio to record songs and stuff. But yeah, when I went to basic training, I quickly realized, like, there's not much music here. and it's fascinating to me. I think one of the most fascinating things about the military is we say these are the people fighting for our freedom, and we thank you for fighting for our freedom. But really, they're giving up all of their freedom in a way. They're giving up a lot of personal power to be in that fighting force. And there's no better example of that than basic training, where you're just treated as a number and a nobody, to kind of get you into that mode of being part of this larger team. The small teams, obviously, but the bigger team of the whole country in a way. So, yeah, music, when I first started my military career, was pretty few and far between, but then I got stationed at Fort Carson in Colorado Springs. God, what a just beautiful, beautiful place. And, I think music was part of our cadences in the morning when we're jogging, and I definitely made some relationships around town in the live music scene, and quickly made friends over at the Acoustic Coffee Lounge, it was called. And so to me, music then was getting away from the bass, getting away from the kind of soldier mentality that was all around me, and going out into Colorado Springs and meeting people, and bringing my friend Jason was bringing in unbelievable bands to the Acoustic Coffee Lounge, which was in this like little kind of plaza. It was a coffee shop and a little bar, and you could just really hang out there, and it was super intimate. You really got to know the musicians, and they were all super happy to play a cool place in Colorado Springs. And he later opened 32 Blue, which was right downtown. Yeah, I mean, kind of my whole time I was stationed at Fort Carson, I was helping Jason out kind of in a volunteer way, do all this music. It was phenomenal. We'd have these big shows I remember we had this band, Jazz is Dead, and they're just unbelievable. They do all jazz renditions of Dead songs. We did Wu-Tang Clan. There was all these like really cool, funky shows that we did. Maroon 5 before they were big. Yeah, it was definitely my outlet, my kind of place that I could feel like Jay and not like Joe, if that makes any sense.
That makes perfect sense, because that's part of the deal, is that you assigning you into the military is assimilating you as a component of the larger unit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an interesting dichotomy. You're Joe on base and Jay off base. Two questions that come up. Do you feel like your training prepared you for deployment?
Yeah. Um, the military does a really good job training you to do your job. And my job was to kill people. If that's what the infantry's there for, is to take land and mess shit up, And so it's a strange feeling. It's a strange feeling to be trained to do something that, doesn't really align with your morals.
Mm-hmm.
But also you can't wait to do that thing, because you've trained so long and thought about it so much that when 9/11 hit, I was out on a out on a jog in the morning. We had a telephone pole on our shoulders that we took up Como Hill, and it was one of these kick your ass PT mornings, and I had big raspberries on my shoulder, I remember. And I come into the CP, which is like the office of our group there, and the news coverage is all over the place, and I think I saw like a second plane hit or something, and I was like, wow, what a crazy movie. I'd never seen this movie. And everybody just kind of looked at me weird, but I was out of it because I was so exhausted. So I get back to my barracks, I turn on CNN, and I'm just like, whoa, you have got to be kidding me. And then it was wild because there's a whole lot of hooping and hollering and a lot of excitement in our barracks, like, all right, we're going to get to go do the thing that we have trained to do, the reason we're here. And I kind of sat in that moment really taking it in, and hearing, how excited people were, and they're running up and down the halls and yelling and hell yeah, we're going to war and all this, and I'm just like, man, I don't know about this. So yeah, that was kind of what led up to my deployment there.
How long was it till you deployed?
We went to Kuwait right after 9/11 as kind of the show of force that we did, and kind of sat in the desert. I would equate my time in Kuwait to the movie Jarhead. I think that's a really good representation of the boredom, and you start like fighting scorpions against snakes and crap like that, but also the just overhanging threat of the Scud missile attacks, that we could start an offensive at any time, like just not knowing what the next thing is going to be. And so then we came home for just a little bit, and then Iraq hadn't really kicked off yet when I was in Kuwait. They were still focused on Afghanistan. When Iraq did kick off, we were about a month late to the invasion. We were supposed to come down through Turkey, which would have been a bad drug deal because we would have had to kind of hand the Kurds over to the Turks, it seemed like, So we were about a month late. We got trucked into Baghdad. We were on Bradley's, so we had our Bradley's with us, and it was kind of a week of no sleep and wondering what the F was next type thing. Yeah, we're infantry, so we're because we were mechanized infantry. We're on the Bradleys. The Bradleys are doing a lot of work right now in Ukraine. You see a lot of them, and we were kind of going wherever the mess was, because we're the guys that jump out of the vehicle and go sort it out. And so, if the tankers got into something, we'd go kind of clear the fields and see if there's bodies out there, We'd run checkpoints a lot, but mainly we were people snatchers. We were guys that showed up at your place at 3 or 4 in the morning because some asshole said you were an asshole. We didn't really have many interpreters at first, and so it was just chaotic, confusion, chaos. Always wondering who's who, and we weren't fighting a uniformed enemy, obviously, but yeah, we would kind of bag you, tag you, and hand you over to the MPs. And yeah, I could feel my humanity on pause, because it was almost like I can't feel my humanity right now. I can't feel how I should be feeling in this situation because my buddy's next to me and I'm more worried about his life than I am my own, and I got to be on my game, and I am responsible for all these guys in my team or my platoon or whatever it is. And so you kind of compartmentalize in a way these things you're seeing and doing. And then as far as, sorry, I don't think about this as much as I should, obviously. And we'll get to that later. But when I do, sometimes I kind of lose my train because I suppress a lot of these memories. I wrote probably 5 letters a day. I loved mail. Like when you're in the infantry and you're out there cruising around, and you get a letter from home or a picture or just anything that reminds you of your life at home. It just feels so good. So I wrote as many letters as I could, just hoping people would write back to me, But then now I have a really hard time reading those letters. In fact, I don't. It's almost like it's a different person to me, and I have a really tough time going back there. But a lot of that is because of what happened halfway through my tour. That brother Michael that I had, he passed away, and it took a week for them to find me. And when they did, we had just gotten back from some crazy mission that we all were trying to process, and they handed me the satellite phone, and I knew that wasn't good. And so I had to go home and bury my brother. That was crazy. I mean, here we are doing, late night missions pretty much every night, just in the middle of it. And all of a sudden I'm on a plane and I'm back home in Rochester, New York, and I'm going to the grocery store, Wegmans, that everybody loves, and I'm going. We went to a golf tournament. The PGA Championship was in town when I went there, and I'm sitting on green grass and I'm just feeling the green grass and I'm losing my shit. And, I didn't know what to be more upset about. I just didn't know what to feel then, because I had left and I had left my brother, and we think it was a suicide. He got a DWI and was in jail overnight, and then he was found a couple days later in Lake Ontario by a boater. And we think he entered in the Genesee River at a bridge, and so I'm not exactly sure of the circumstances there. But that was tough. Just not knowing, because I wasn't there. I wasn't there for him to call or to reach out to. And so the hardest day of my life was leaving to go back to Iraq. Because I was home for about a week and, buried him and just kind of was just spun for a week. And I couldn't wait to get back to my unit. Because I was a gunner on the Bradley, man. There was 6 guys in the back. There's 3 crew members. I was responsible for all these people, because I'm the gun. And we're cruising down the road, like I'm the guy scanning everything and making sure we're safe when all those guys are passed out in the heat in the back, So I was just super scared that I wasn't there to do my job. And I was decent at my job, and so I couldn't wait to get back to my brothers. Which is crazy,
Not crazy at all.
I just lost a brother. So, but, yeah, I got back and it's funny, in these situations, you really get to know people and, every story they have and the other 10 that they make up to sound cool, and I was really confused what my role was going to be when I got back. And so I found myself kind of being the kind of platoon, I don't know, counselor or chaplain or something like that, where nobody really wanted to leave me alone, because they knew what I was going through. But the time I would spend with people, oftentimes it was talking about the stuff they had going on at home. And I'll say trauma and pain is such a sliding scale, and they saw my slide all the way at the max, right? So they figured, well, whatever the worst thing going on to me is probably isn't that bad, Jay, But in all those conversations, and especially, we'd have to watch the radio at night, if we're being called or whatever, A lot of times I'd be alone with somebody at night doing radio watch, just talking about their life, and it gave me a real understanding of that sliding scale, and that the worst thing that's ever happened to you is still the worst thing that's ever happened to you. It doesn't matter where it is on somebody else's scale,
Exactly.
And you have these conversations of people's relationships falling apart, people really missing their kids, all the humanity that you are staying away from because of the enemy. You don't want to think of the enemy as human because, your job is to pull that fucking trigger. But all that humanity that you've taken away from one people, you're really seeing in a magnified way in the people right around you, because they are dealing with their humanity in such an open way in front of you so many times that it is a big dichotomy.
It takes a hugely open soul to see that.
Yeah, I can say that now. It's been a long journey for me. And we'll get into that in a bit and all the great stuff that's out there. But getting back to music, while I was in theater, I was listening to all these burned CDs that I had. Oh, God, what was the name of them? It was like the Three Bishops or something like that. They were like a really good jazz funk thing. And then my CO, I was turning him on to some underground kind of cool music, so he loved whatever I would get in. And I had my little CD player and my headphones, and I was a big String Cheese Incident fan. They're from Colorado, and they have these Red Rock shows that, man, it's just pure joy, and happiness, and I could put those shows in because I'd actually been to those shows.
When were you able to listen to music in theater?
There's just a lot of downtime, there for us, it was a lot of, we would kind of set up these little bases for ourselves, whether it was in like an ammo depot or something like that, but it was a little time that we could be safe, and read. And I did a lot of reading. But yeah, music, I mean, I still have, when songs come on, I'm like, oh man, I used to listen to that a lot in Iraq. And so guys are always kind of trading stuff with each other. Eventually PXs get set up, where you can go like buy CDs and stuff, but now I'm sure it's all different. Do you remember a
specific song? Do you remember any song that stands out for you?
Yes. And no, of course I can't. It was a String Cheese song. Or no. This song was a Fish song. And the chorus is, "This has all been wonderful, but now I'm on my way." Yeah.
I'll have to look for it.
It was kind of a tongue-in-cheek, this has been great, but I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Yeah. So that leads me to my next question. When you got out?
I got out right after we got home, because I kind of got stop lost for a little while, which is when they don't let you out because you're still kind of deployed and still needed.
So how did you get out?
I'm sorry?
How did you get out? How did the process go for you getting out?
It did not go well. Everything I had juggling kind of came crashing down. I left. They sat a bunch of us in a room, and they were having a hard time with retention, so they were wanting to keep troops in, right? And so they kind of went around the room and they said, "What are you going to do, soldier?" "Oh, well, I'm going to, work for my uncle's tailor shop or whatever, like, what are you going to, no, you're not, you're going to be on meth and you're going to be in a gutter somewhere. What are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to, my brother, he's got an electric. Oh, no. If you leave the Army, you're going to be a piece of shit and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just watching this happen. And I'm just seeing in these kids' eyes, like, wow, we thought we did something, really powerfully for you guys, something that we didn't really exactly want to do, but we did. And now you're going to treat us like this, and just not appreciate from within the Army. And they got to me, and my call sign was hippie, on the on the Bradley, and they're like, hippie, what are you gonna do? And I said, Sergeant Major, I'm gonna find the biggest bong I can and try to forget all this shit. All right. Well, what are you gonna do? So they kind of skipped over me.
You're good. You're good. You're good. We got you.
yeah, we got it.
Okay, next.
But how hurtful to everyone in that room, how to invalidate so much that we had did and so much that they wanted us to be proud of. But yeah, one of my biggest experiences when I got back was I was thrown right back into my unit. I was up at we had a police station we were guarding. I was up at the front, and I was kind of the gate guard, if you would, and a truck pulled up. It's got bodies in the back. There's blood pouring out of the back of this thing. So we figure it out who it is and who can come into our little compound. And this guy sits next to me because the whole family couldn't go in. And I'm out there, kind of really on alert for the next threat. But this seemed like it was more of a town problem, two sheiks going at each other or something like that. But the guy I was sitting next to, through our broken English, I figured out was this guy's brother that was in the back of the truck, just got killed. I was there, sitting with him. My brother had just died at home, and their way of grieving, is so boisterous and open and loud, and I had this moment where I was like, holy shit, like, wow, this guy is able to, let his emotions out right now. And I'm not. I'm in this situation where I'm just like being so suppressed. And it really hit me like, what the fuck am I doing here? So that carried with me till I got out, and when I got out, I made good on my promises, man. I found the biggest bong I could. I named it George after George W. Bush. I drank every beer they had in Colorado Springs and in Denver. I was just out of control and just trying to suppress it all. But on the outside, you would have thought I was having a great old time. Because I was just going around getting wasted, going to shows, doing all kinds of things. Coming back to Colorado Springs, my buddy Jason, he was still doing the music thing, and he was producing a show with Ziggy Marley and Michael Franny. And Michael Franny and Spearhead, in the 90s, they were kind of an angry social commentary band, and then when the wars kicked off, he really grabbed hold of that. He even went to Baghdad. He made a documentary about it, and the show was just incredible. And I'm standing there just taking this all in, and a lot of it is about what I had just been through, and peace and love and all these other things that I was trying to grab hold of again. And I'm just bawling in the middle of this beautiful show in Colorado Springs. It was so awesome. And I had friends show up that I didn't even know were coming from Denver, and I'm just a wreck. And after the show, Michael, I went up to talk to him, and he was an old basketball player, so he's tall, and he just gave me the biggest hug. I just needed that so bad. And this whole circle of people kind of formed around us. And him and I just talked, and he talked about how music is so healing, and that he was planning his trip to Iraq, and he really wanted to play for both sides, and he wanted to play for the people, but also the troops. And yeah, what a just absolutely powerful night. And music was right in the center of it.
And it changed you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That brings up a question. You grew up in a household of music. You've got a very humanistic approach to the world, and it's obvious in how you describe your experience in Iraq and about your brother and just about music in general. How big of a part do you think that musical base that you had underneath you is a part of that kind of metaphysical awareness that you carry? Because that's what music is. I think that the magic of music is in that it crosses the senses, and it always looks for right.
Yeah, I think as men especially, sometimes just expressing your emotions is either not wanted, or you don't know how to do it right, or you just don't. Everyone's felt that kind of tickle, I feel like. That tickle when, man, you're seeing something live. Most of the time it's live, and it's just like it's touching parts of your brain and parts of your body that don't really feel that tickle unless in that situation. And for me, music is such an expression of emotions. I got called back in after I came home, and it was the last year of my inactive reserve. It's basically so they don't have to have a draft. They can call people back in that just got out.
Oh, I know.
And man, my life fell apart because really I was juggling way too much, but also, using alcohol and whatever I could to just drown out any emotions that I had. But what that experience did for me is get me through the door to start talking to somebody. And I went to the VA in Grand Junction, and I told the guy, hey, this is what I got going on. Oh my God. And the guy was a great counselor, man. He was so awesome. And he's like, well, okay, here's a checklist for you. Why don't you try this out? And I took this kind of, checklist about stuff going on in my life and handed it back to him. He's like, dude, you're classic PTSD. You're pretty much off the charts right now. Let's start talking about this and getting you help. And I didn't see that in myself at all. I saw myself as still fully functioning, and, I had a good job. I was making good money. I was in the oil field doing decent. That walking into that door at the VA started a journey that lasted, I guess it's like 17 years now, of really trying to tap into where my pain is and how it surfaces. So, yeah, even then, music was a huge part of my life. And I started going and doing this stuff called EMDR, which uses rapid eye movement. And I started going to counseling, and I started doing these things, and I started really feeling good doing these things, especially the EMDR. And that's when you and I were hanging out. And I've always found that when I, not everyone's this way, but when I do something that really helps me, I really want to share it with everyone, because I feel like, oh man, everybody needs this,
Yeah.
And I think we as, especially American men don't do that enough, kind of share the self-help stuff that's really working for us. Yeah, I'll never forget. We were at the brewery in Palisade. I think you were probably playing that night, and you started talking about giving music lessons to veterans, and I just thought that was the coolest idea, man, because it hit on a lot of things for me. we didn't know what we were doing at all. But I had you with the biggest freaking heart in the world that wanted to share that and
God, I
help
love you, man.
ease some of the pain you were seeing. And I saw this as just a fantastic avenue, because I saw musicians and soldiers as having so much in common, misunderstood maybe by society a bit. They have a lot to say, and they see the world in a different way. I think I feel like a lot of musicians struggle just as much with addiction as veterans do.
Mm-hmm.
And I just saw this kind of relationship that we could build by just getting people together. At that point, that's all we wanted to do, was just get them together and see what happened. Yeah, and the funny thing is, when we took it to the VA, they laughed their asses off at us. They're like, "Yeah, right, dude. You can't like bring some like music therapy weirdness and hippie shit in here."
It's kind of funny now when I look back, because now the VA here in Denver has been just beautiful about embracing music therapy, and
It's
we've
incredible.
actually got a program in going there. You know, and
Yeah.
it's, that's it only took 13, 14 years.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, man. Yeah, what a journey, huh? I couldn't ask for a better
It's been
compadre. I'll
impressive.
tell you what, man.
It's been impressive to watch the VA turn around, and really embrace a lot of these alternative therapies. And in a way, I kind of started becoming a collector of these things, where if there's all these different groups out there, and I just encourage everyone to find their next platoon. Like, I don't really talk to the guys from my Iraq time much, not really at all. But I did a program called Veterans to Farmers, and that was teaching veterans how to farm down at the Denver Botanic Gardens. Oh my God, well, that's my platoon now. These are my people. We connected so well, and we had kind of a common kind of world view as well. But yeah, now the VA is doing the MDR, and I had to do all that on my own, out of my own pocket. But now I did 5 years of a trauma timeline with the MDR. I just finished a program called Ascend, which is 3 days a week, 3 times a day, using CPT is what I did, cognizant processing therapy. I loved it because it was really kind of writing and hands-on, as far as like pencil to paper, and really looking at the lies you tell yourself and turning those lies around, into something that is going to work for your life instead of hinder your life. So yeah, I'm right back into that place I was when we first met, where I'm just fucking jazzed, man. I just want to get out and share some of this stuff.
When you were at that meeting there at Post One with us the other night, I think it was you that brought it up, and I thought this was such a beautiful tool to bring to songwriting, to bring to music, let our people know about, and that's that, you've got your story, you write down the story, whatever that story is,
Mm-hmm.
and how it ended, how the ending, how it ends might be horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Write another story. Write another ending.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just brilliant, because one of the things that I think that music brings to the table is that we can say things in songs that we can't say, in
Mm-hmm.
sentences. We can cross into areas that aren't safe to talk about, but we can write them into songs. And that idea of taking that story and taking that ending and ending it, writing that story any way you want to.
Yeah.
let it take it wherever you want to, and in the therapeutic sense, taking that story and making it successful and making it feel like your own, and and livable, tolerable.
Exactly. I mean, you're the drummer, the lead singer, the guitarist, the caterer. You're the manager. You're the roadie, and sometimes maybe even the groupie of your own band,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And you better like the fucking music. Otherwise, that's going to be a hellacious tour to be on.
Beautifully put. I've got a couple more questions to run at you
Yeah.
here. What kind of music are you listening to now?
Right now, I'm a little all over the board. I've been listening to a lot more jazz, a lot more blues. I always thought of the blues as like kind of the sad music, but now I'm really seeing the joy in it.
Yeah.
Now that I'm a little out of the blues.
Yeah. If you don't have the blues, it's not quite as blue.
Yeah, exactly. I've been listening to a lot of international music. I've been getting into kind of like kind of that French pop sound, and I've got a band from Australia called King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, and they play everything. They play like death metal, and then they play like a synthesizer pop song right after it, and man, I'm really digging that because to me, it's really exploring where music can take you and the different emotions and the different kind of feelings you can have within one concert, can be all these different things.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, kind of like this, it's kind of like this psychedelic surf music in a way sometimes. The stuff I'm listening to.
Well, I hope you don't forget about hillbilly music because I want to see your face once in a while.
Well, I know, right? Well, I made myself a rule. I'm not going to bluegrass indoors anymore. It's a little too much for me.
I hear you. It's a madhouse.
I'll go outside all day.
Hey, I'm gonna shoot. You're gonna help me write a song. I'm gonna run a couple of lyrics by you, and I want you to tell me what that makes you think of.
Cool.
Where are you from? Where are you going? Can you live with all you've done?
Oh, wow.
That's
Can
big,
you live with
it?
all you've done? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So right now I'm in a moral injury study through the VA. I'm the last person of the last group of a 5-year study.
I love that term. I wish it were used more.
That's exactly it. I think we need to start using it more. I think PTSD now, there's definitely a place for that. I think it's also been kind of drugged through popular culture a bit too much, where now it's, oh, I've got PTSD over that or whatever, moral injury. That means something.
That sure really, hits the nail on the head.
Helps the conversation between veteran and civilian. I'm dealing with a moral injury because the civilian immediately can pick up like, okay, I get that, and so this study is all about, can you live with what you've done? And people that I'm in this group with, they've all done these pretty horrific things, and we don't know what each other has done. I definitely had a situation with a school when I was over there, and we don't need to get into it, but I wanted to be a teacher before I joined the Army, and because this thing happened at a school and just continued to kind of manifest and stuff in my life over and over, that dream was taken away from me. And I had a lot of remorse and a lot of grief over that, because I really wanted to work with kids and I really wanted to help people and I really wanted to do all these things. But man, there's no way I could walk into a classroom and tell kids that America's great in the state that I was in. And so when you say to me, like, can you live with what you've done? Like, I see these guys in this group and man, they just seem like the nicest people and they're really just sweet, innocent in a way people that were thrown into a situation and did something that was beyond their realm of even ability or anything they would think that they could do. And that's what we're trying to do is live with what we've done. And what this study is showing me is that it's living with it, not putting it away, not running from it, not somehow destroying it, because destroying it is really what you're doing is destroying yourself. But it's having a place for that pain, because that pain is what makes us human. Mm-hmm. And that pain means that you wanted to do better in that situation, but for whatever reason you couldn't, you know? And so, yeah, living with what you've done, I think in regular, normal people's lives that have never been to war, you know, that's a huge part of their life is the forgiveness aspect of it, the self-forgiveness. And then how do you live with it? How do you move on? How do you turn it around so that it's not keeping you down, but it's a part of your life that's a learning experience? There's a Wood Brothers song that is called Happiness Jones. Great song. My favorite part of the song is that he says, I never learned a thing being happy.
That's brutal.
Oh, it's so true. Yeah, you know, like your hardest moments are where you learn your biggest lessons, and to see them as that, as lessons, is tough, and it's a long journey to get to there for most people. But when you are, it really frees you up a lot.
You know, something that came to mind is that how far, for all the struggles and all the fights and all the trials, now how far you guys have come, considering I look back on my dad. He was a Korean War vet, a combat vet, and he was a fucking mess, emotionally a mess. Never any avenue for unraveling that shit, because you just didn't do it. You just didn't talk about it. It wasn't, you know, that's just the way it was. And that's the way it was for all of those guys that came home. And a lot of them were really fucked up. You know, I still think alcohol has done more damage to veterans than anything else on the planet.
Absolutely.
But
I quit drinking 2 years ago, and
congrats,
it has opened up so much. And when you think about it, Tony, when you hear people talk about the greatest generation in these war generations, what are they really talking about? You know, is it great that a man came home and was never really a part of his family, or was super abusive, or super addicted to alcohol and all the anger and violence that brings? You know, social, and in a way that's like people think of that war as like a just war, you know, a war we had to do, you know, and a war we had business being in. And how did that violence transfer to the American neighborhood? You know, how did that violence come home with people?
It came home in a big
live
way.
In these homes. And we blindly say that, well, they're the greatest. They're the greatest. I'm really so hopeful for this generation of veterans, because the conversation's out there now. And now it's not such a faux pas to raise your hand and ask for help. the time they're asking you like, oh, do you feel like you have psychological problems? And you answer no, because you just want to get the hell out of there.
This is the most intelligent and most informed cohort of veterans the world has ever seen.
Yeah.
You know, these people aren't stupid, and they aren't sheep. And I think that I keep saying this over and over. It's kind of a mantra to me. A country that does not take care of the people who defend it is fucked. Is not long for its existence. And the fact that we are dealing now with combat care and injury, moral injury, PTSD, that we're dealing with this stuff openly and trying to find new avenues now, that was not available to the guys coming back from Korea or from Vietnam. So thankfully, I think of that as some small measure of progress, but we ain't done. We're a long way from it.
I mean, the more of these cycles we can break. You know, I have kids, and I don't want them to take on my trauma baggage. You know, they're going to have their own traumas. They're going to have their own shit to deal with. I think my favorite saying about, and I'm in my office right now, it's on my dartboard: mental health is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. I think that really hits home when you have a family. These things that might have happened to you, you know, maybe before the military, maybe in the military. I'm not saying that everybody in the military feels the way I do. You know, we're such a diverse group that, you know, there's so many different feelings about your time in the military. You know, this is just my story. This is just my part. And I hope, because it has helped me, that getting my story out there might spark something in somebody else. But mental health is not your fault. These things happen. And it's not necessarily somebody else's fault either. There's really no fault in it. But it is entirely my responsibility to deal with it. Because who else is? My kids can't do it for me. My spouse can't do that for me. I have to have the courage, have the strength, have the humility to walk through that door and get help. And that is now my mission in life, is to be the doorman for other veterans, to show them, hey, here's the door. I can't push you through it. I can't pull you into it. I can show you the door. I can tell you what going beyond that door has done for me, but it is up to you, because it is your responsibility. And having that responsibility and feeling that, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. But knowing that responsibility, and having that ownership of whatever you need to deal with will help you so much more in your healing. That ownership, I think, is one of the main pieces.
The guys that I see that seem to be the most balanced and most content are the guys that are actively doing stuff.
Yep.
You know, and thank God there are so many avenues. Soldier Songs and Voices is just one, but there are many. I like to wave our flag a lot because we're good at what we do, and what we do, we don't know how. People say, how's it work? And we say, pretty good. You know?
How do you guys do this thing very carefully?
Yeah. It's but I'm awfully proud of what we get to do, because the people's lives we get to see how music is a lot bigger than just a song. It's a lot bigger than that. It's what it does, and the kind of community it opens up our people to, and how it opens up to broader conversations, which always end up at the mental health conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, inevitably, they always end up there, because that's what this thing addresses. You know, I've got another lyric for you.
Okay.
What came to me through grace will never be forgotten.
One more time.
What came to me through grace will never be forgotten.
Ooh, wow. Yeah, I like that. And that makes me think of the people that have been on my journey of healing, in good times and bad times. I think you're right. There are all these different things. There's soldier songs. There's all these different groups that you can tap into, and I highly encourage people to tap into the VA. I wouldn't have said that years ago, but my experience has just been phenomenal. I think about the people that work there and the amount of grace they hold, and they give to other people, and they see you for who you are in that moment. They see you. They really see you. When I first started, I couldn't even walk into a VA. I had all these appointments there, and I haven't. I got a 60% disability. I highly encourage dropping your paperwork for that if you haven't already. Greatest thing that has given me is healthcare, and more importantly, mental health care, because most private insurers aren't going to really help you much there. Most of the time you're paying out of pocket until you reach a certain point. But the VA, I can use any of their mental health programs at any time. And I could not walk in the door when I first started. I would see the picture of the president that they always have at the front of the building, and I would just be flooded with emotions, because I had so much anger and pain and just hopelessness, that every appointment I walked into, my eyes were just totally puffy and red, and because I had bawled on my way up the stairs. And that was years ago, and I have the picture of my first ID card, my first VA ID card, because I look like shit, because I look like I was about to fucking die, and I keep that card with me at all times, just to kind of remind me where I came from.
Yeah.
Because now, I'm talking about maybe looking at working at the VA and looking at helping in some way at the VA. And when I go to the VA, I feel a lot better. Yeah, I still feel a lot of the other people's pain around me, because it's so personal to me that I can feel that. But what a turnaround, I mean, it amazes me, and I get down on myself a lot about that. I should be better sooner, and I should have done more sooner, and I should be at a certain point, and I get the should-haves, right?
Fuck that.
But that doesn't do shit for you,
No.
It's just amazing what grace can do in your life, for sure.
Well, Jay, I'm going to wrap this thing up because we've been at it for an hour, buddy.
I could go days with you, bud.
I love you to pieces.
You so much, Tony.
Now, that line that I just recited to you, you were what came to mind when I was thinking of that, when I wrote that down. What came to me through grace will never be forgotten. I will never forget you. You are a part of my world, a part of my heart. I love you to pieces, man. And we.
Oh yeah. Well, the next podcast we'll go all into our Idaho tour, because that's the best
story. Yeah. We'll have to do that. We'll get Dustin on, and maybe Emily. Oh God, maybe Emily.
I love it.
Okay, man. Well, I love you to pieces, dude.
Yeah. Take care, and my email is burps2000@gmail. If anybody wants to ask a question or reach out, or I'm big into a new book that another Soldier Songs dude gave me. It's called At Hell's Gate by Claude Anshin Thomas. Anybody, if anything
put a
that I
link
said
to it.
resonated with people today, check out this book.
I'll put a
is
link to it
unbelievable.
on down below. Once again, this is Tony Rosario with Soldier Songs and Voices, and you can check us out at soldierssongsandvoices.com. I've been with my good dear friend Jay Burbank. He was one of the OGs, man, Soldier Songs. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. I hope you all enjoyed this interview. This has been something else, man. For me, this has been really special. So, Jay, thank you. God bless you. I love you to pieces, man. You be good to yourself.
Love you all out there, and take care, buddy.
See you soon. We truly hope you've enjoyed your time with us today at the Soldier Songs and Voices podcast. If you want to know more, just visit us at soldierssongsandvoices.com. Sign up for our newsletter. Stay abreast of all the comings and goings at soldierssongsandvoices.com. And whatever you do, be good to one another. We'll see you next time.